The city woke up before the sun. Streetlights still blinked lazily as the first wave of traffic rolled in, buses coughing smoke, bikes slicing through narrow gaps, cars honking like impatience had a sound. The air smelled of dust, diesel, and hurried lives. Right outside the glass-fronted Apex Tower, where deals worth crores were discussed over imported coffee, a man unfolded a small, battered mat on the footpath. He placed a wooden shoeshine box on it with practiced care, like a ritual he had performed 1,000 times before. Inside the box, 2 tins of polish, black and brown. A cracked brush with missing bristles. A faded cloth that had once been white. The man himself looked unremarkable. Wrinkled shirt, old trousers, sandals worn thin at the heel. His name was Raghav, but no one here knew that. To them, he was just the shoe shiner. He sat down, adjusted the box, and waited. By 9 a.m., the crowd arrived. Men in tailored suits, women in sharp heels, phones pressed to ears, eyes glued to screens. They walked fast, always fast, like stopping for even a second might cost them something important. Polish, sir? Raghav asked softly. No response. Polish, madam. A woman stepped aside, annoyed, as if he were an obstacle rather than a human being. Some days, a few would stop. Mostly junior staff, security guards, delivery boys, those who still remembered the value of clean shoes and conversation. But today was different. There was tension in the air. Even Raghav could feel it. People coming out of Apex Tower looked uneasy. Voices were louder, faces tighter. Arguments spilled out through the revolving doors like steam escaping a pressure cooker. A man in his 40s stormed out around noon. Expensive suit, crooked tie, eyes red with frustration. He kicked the steps lightly, cursed under his breath, and dropped onto the marble stair, loosening his collar. Raghav watched quietly. He had learned long ago that watching was safer than speaking. The man rubbed his temples. His phone buzzed non-stop. Messages he didn't want to read. Calls he didn't want to answer. Raghav waited a moment, then gently spoke. Polish, sir. The man looked down, really looked, for the first time. For a split second, annoyance flashed across his face. Then exhaustion took over. Fine, he sighed. Quickly, Raghav nodded and got to work. As he cleaned the dust from the leather, he noticed things others wouldn't. The shoes were Italian, expensive, but worn unevenly, the left heel thinner. He walks too much, Raghav thought. Paces when stressed. The man's laptop bag lay open beside him. A corner of a printed document stuck out, fluttering slightly in the breeze. Boxes, arrows, code fragments. Raghav's eyes lingered, not because he was curious, but because it was familiar. Painfully familiar. The man exhaled sharply. Everything's falling apart, he muttered, more to himself than to Raghav. Raghav didn't respond. He kept polishing. The rhythmic motion of the brush brought back memories he tried hard to forget. Once upon a time, he too had worn polished shoes. Once, he had rushed into buildings like this, late for meetings, coffee in hand, mind racing with deadlines. Once, his opinions mattered. Now, he listened. That was his job. Listening. Inside Apex Tower, alarms weren't ringing, but they might as well have been. A 100 rupees crore project, 2 years in the making, was collapsing under its own weight. A flagship system upgrade, promised to investors, marketed to clients, announced to the press, and now, failing. Servers crashed without warning, processes looped endlessly, data mismatched, teams worked overnight, consultants were flown in. Whiteboards filled and erased. Nothing worked. The problem wasn't obvious. That's what made it terrifying. Outside, Raghav finished polishing one shoe and moved to the other. The manager sighed again. They'll blame me, he said suddenly. Even though I warned them. Raghav glanced up briefly. What did you warn them about? He asked. The manager scoffed. You wouldn't understand. It's complicated. Raghav nodded. He had heard that sentence many times in life. Still, his eyes drifted back to the document. The sequence diagram had a flaw. A small one, but small mistakes break big systems. His hand slowed. His heart beat faster. No, he told himself. Not your place. He finished the second shoe and leaned back. But the words slipped out anyway. Sir, may I say something? The manager looked irritated. What? Raghav hesitated. His voice dropped. The issue, it's not in the code itself. The manager stiffened slightly. It's in the order. The sequence. Silence. Traffic noise. Horns. Footsteps. The manager stared at him. What did you just say? Raghav immediately lowered his gaze. Nothing, sir. Just a thought. The manager stood up abruptly. Hey, he snapped. Look at me. Raghav looked up. For the first time, their eyes met properly. The manager didn't see a beggar. He saw clarity. How do you know that? He asked slowly. Raghav swallowed. Because, he said carefully, when systems talk to each other, timing matters more than logic. The manager's breath caught. That sentence alone was something only an insider would say. Who are you? The manager asked. Raghav wiped his hands on the cloth. Just a shoe shiner, sir. The manager glanced at the building, then back at Raghav. And in that moment, between arrogance and desperation, curiosity won. Come with me, he said. Raghav froze. Sir, I said come with me. People passing by stared. Security frowned. The shoe shiner stood up, picked up his box, hands trembling, not from fear, but from something else. Hope and dread. As the glass doors of Apex Tower opened, Raghav stepped inside a world he thought he had lost forever. Unnoticed by most, judged by many, but carrying an understanding that could change everything. Because sometimes, the man no one sees is the only one who truly understands the problem. Chapter 2. The air inside Apex Tower felt colder than the street outside. Not because of the air conditioning, but because of the tension. Raghav stepped onto the polished marble floor, his sandals making a soft, almost apologetic sound. The glass doors closed behind him with a dull thud, sealing off the noise of the city. For a moment, he just stood there, shoeshine box clutched tightly in his left hand, unsure of where to look. Eyes were already on him. Security guards paused mid-step. A receptionist's fingers hovered over her keyboard. 2 junior executives whispered, glancing at his clothes. He had been invisible outside. Inside, he was painfully visible. The manager, Arjun Malhotra, head of technology, walked ahead quickly, not looking back. His mind was racing. What had he just done? Dragging a shoe shiner into the headquarters of a billion-rupee company. But desperation has a way of silencing pride. Conference room B, Arjun told the receptionist curtly. She blinked. Sir, the board is all ready. I know, he snapped. Send them in. Raghav followed. Each step felt heavier than the last. The conference room was a battlefield. Whiteboards covered with half-erased diagrams. Markers without caps. Coffee cups stacked like evidence of sleepless nights. Around the long table sat the company's best minds. Senior engineers. Consultants flown in from abroad. Project managers with dark circles under their eyes. They were arguing. No, the API timeout isn't the cause. Yes it is. Look at the logs. We've patched that twice already. The room fell silent when Arjun entered. Then their eyes moved, past him. To Raghav. A pause. A laugh from the far end of the table. Arjun, someone said carefully, what's this? Arjun took a breath. He might have an idea. A senior architect scoffed. Based on what? Shoe polish analytics. A few chuckles followed. Raghav felt heat rise in his face. His grip tightened around the box. He wanted to leave, right now, but Arjun raised his hand. Enough. We're out of options. He turned to Raghav. Tell them what you told me. Every eye locked onto him. This room once belonged to him. Not this room, but rooms like it. He remembered the first time he had stood in front of people like this. The fear, the thrill. His voice steadied. The system isn't failing because of a bug, Raghav said. It's failing because of timing. Murmurs. He stepped closer to the whiteboard. May I? Someone slid a marker toward him reluctantly. Raghav hesitated for half a second, then picked it up. The board squeaked as he drew. Boxes. Arrows. Numbers. The authentication service is responding after the transaction commit, he explained. That's fine under low load. But at scale, it collapses. A consultant leaned forward. That's not possible. We load tested it. Raghav nodded. You tested each service separately. Silence. You never tested the sequence under real-world concurrency. Arjun felt his pulse spike. The room shifted. Skepticism gave way to curiosity. Run it, Raghav said quietly. But reverse steps 3 and 4. Someone hesitated, then typed. Screens flickered. Logs streamed. 1 minute passed. Then 2. No crash. No error. Someone whispered. It's holding. 3 minutes. 5. The system stabilized. A gasp rippled across the room. It's working, an engineer said, disbelief shaking his voice. Arjun sank into a chair. 100 crore rupees. Saved. No one laughed now. They stared at Raghav as if he had just appeared out of thin air. The CEO, Vikram Mehra, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. Who are you? Raghav placed the marker down carefully. My name is Raghav, he said. I used to be a software engineer. The room froze. Used to, Vikram repeated. Raghav nodded. I led systems like this. Bigger ones too. Arjun frowned. Then why? Life, Raghav said simply. He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. Everyone in the room suddenly understood how small their assumptions had been. Vikram stood up and extended his hand. Thank you, he said sincerely. Raghav shook it. That handshake carried something heavier than gratitude. Respect. News spread fast. By evening, people stopped Raghav in the corridor. Sir, that was brilliant. Where did you learn that? Some avoided his eyes, embarrassed. HR called him in. Offers were made. Big ones. Titles. Salaries. Benefits. Raghav listened politely. Then he smiled. I'll think about it, he said. He walked back outside. The city was still loud. Still rushing. He sat down on the same footpath. Placed his box beside him. But something had changed. People noticed. Some smiled. Some nodded. Some sat down for a polish, and a conversation. Arjun came out later that night. He didn't ask for a polish. He sat beside Raghav. I judged you, he said. Raghav chuckled softly. Most people do. Arjun looked at the building. Today taught me something. What? That heroes don't always wear suits. Raghav stood up, lifting his box. And sometimes, he replied, they're just waiting to be seen. As he walked away, the glass building reflected his figure, not small, not invisible. But undeniable, because the one everyone thought was just a shoe shiner, turned out to be the real hero.